Welcome to the Q&A Cafe. We're here at the Georgetown Club. I thank them always for making a home for us here, and very grateful to DC Cable and also to Georgetown Cupcake, our sponsor. I guess I'm feeling effusive because it's a holiday weekend. You may be watching this a year from now, but we are celebrating both Passover and Easter, and so everybody's in a festive mood. We've got a full room. And we have one of my very good friends here as a guest, Nancy Taylor Bubes. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, and we were just reminiscing that this is an encore appearance for you, and that you were last on the show 10 years ago in 2009, in sort of the last months of Nathan's.
I guess I sort of closed it down.
Well, we're not going to.
I guess that wasn't a good thing.
We don't even want to get into what closed it down. But anyway, but yeah, we're still here.
It's still amazing.
We're all still here.
Carol?
Yeah, I know.
You're still doing it,
hey,
girl.
Boom.
Very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
But thank you for doing this on Good Friday, and for all of you coming out. And I thought I'd start just in talking about how long we've known each other. Because I realize it's almost 30 years, because we started out we met through our children.
That's right.
But they didn't have any idea what we were doing or who we were, or who they were. But they were little.
And they still have no idea.
We still don't. They were little tots. And what I remember about you is you seemed to be always pregnant, because you were.
That's right, I was.
And you were, but you were starting.
I was pregnant for 3 years for one child.
Yes. And I just did one. But I watched her with admiration. But what I also admired was the way you were moving into this business of real estate. I don't know if you had already started before then, or if you'd started to dabble in it and then you didn't jump into it with more earnestness after the children were all born. Which was it?
I had started, I started at 30, and so I had my first child at 38. So I think I wasn't really as focused on Georgetown, but
you thought you knew it would be your career?
I wasn't sure at that point, I don't think.
What had you done before real estate?
Well, let me just say, I was in retail at Neiman Marcus, and I thought I hated working every Christmas Eve, every day after Thanksgiving, and I thought, if I'm ever going to get married and have kids, I need a career where I can have a little more flexibility. Yeah. So it was kind of, the kids came a lot later, and the flexibility came. But then 7 days a week came too.
Yeah, well, of course. But you still own your own time, though.
Exactly. It's a beautiful
But did
thing.
you jump straight from retail at Neiman Marcus into getting a real estate job?
I had a short stint with Carol Lascaris, the Design World Lascaris Group, and got my license then. Took a year then. And
so were you were you still working in retail and sort of like night school, working on getting your license, or did you make a clean break and then go?
Yeah. I did the Carol, and it's when you make those clean breaks, it's commission-based business, so you eat what you kill.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to believe in yourself, which you obviously did. But do you recommend that to people? If you think you're going to go into real estate, just do it. Focus on getting your license. Don't try to do two things at once. If you can afford to not do two things at once.
Right. It's really hard. I think people just see it as as sort of a part-time business when they see people on weekends or evenings showing houses, and that they can have a job and do that too. But it's I think my wonderful two sidekicks, Annie and Kathleen, both agree that it's a full-time gig.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose to do anything well, you've got to approach it that way. At what point in this illustrious career of yours did you put your face on the supermarket carts?
Oh God, I love those carts.
I did too. Oh. I thought it was so brave.
I love those. It was really great because I'd go to the grocery store and people would be like, they would call me from the grocery store going, I'm here right now. I meant to call you to ask you something. And because he'd be right at the cart and there was a number because everyone's at the grocery store. So yeah, I did that. I had that for a long time until I came to Washington Fine Properties, and Tom Anderson said, we got one problem. I'm like, what? He goes, the grocery cart. And I went, what?
Oh my God.
My grocery cart, I love it. I love going to Safeway, talking to people.
Not our look.
Not our look. Yeah, I still think it was.
I always thought it was very cool. And my son would be at the market and say, Mommy, that's Mrs. Bubes.
We saw the thing, I know. I'd see my kid in the thing right in front of them and in front of myself.
But, you know, it taps into a subject that I think is important and I think that you do very well, and that's marketing. You know, if you're going to be a realtor, I guess don't be too quiet about it, right?
I guess.
Well, no,
you're right.
Right.
You're right.
I mean,
You're
do
right.
you think that part of your really laudable success is the fact that a good part of what you do is marketing yourself?
I think so. You know, I don't really think about it because I was an art major, so I think that's my creative way of doing business. So I'm always like trying to invent new
Not
things.
let people forget you.
Yeah, not let people, you know.
Well, I mean, I would just think that's one of a key principle of being in the business.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you've got to just, you don't want to hover,
Yeah.
I suppose,
Yeah.
but you want to let both buyers and sellers know that you're there.
Yeah, you know, it's
You'll take a
not
call at
their
any hour.
responsibility to remember me. It's my responsibility.
And that's
for them
marketing.
to remember me. Yes.
What do you think has been in the realm of marketing? What do you think has been the most productive thing you've done? That's proved the most useful.
Oh, I remember when the recyclable bags went right before the time, and my husband is always, we know Alan.
Alan Bubes.
Alan's like, what are you doing now?
Also
what?
known as
and
the
I'd get
socialite.
all these boxes in, and he's like, what are those downstairs? I'm like, oh, nothing. I'd be taking them into the basement. But when I did those bags, and then it was right when the stores were saying 5 cents for a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, and he even said like 2 years later, he goes, I guess you were really ahead of that curve. I'm like, yeah, I told you I was.
Well, I think you were also in the vanguard of recipes, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I did those recipe cards too.
Right.
I love
and
those.
and many realtors do that now.
I know.
And you could do a book, you know.
It was so funny. Someone just sent me a picture of me, you know, with the old hairstyle and, you know, the hairstyle 20 years ago with the recipe card, the apple crisp, and just, I still make it every Christmas.
Well, see, so this is not a bad thing. You could someday compile a book of greatest recipes of realtors nationwide. What was your first sale? Do you remember it? Well, I mean, you'd have to remember it.
I
right?
remember my first listing was in Le Bourget. This, like, no one even knows the building. It's on Calorama, in Calorama on California Street. And I remember they were for sale by owner. And that's how I used to try to get my listings was, you know, you just sort of date, you keep calling them and what can I help you with? And finally someone gave up and I got my first 1-bedroom apartment.
That's the secret, right? They gave up?
They finally gave up, yes. You just got to be the last guy standing for when they give up.
Yeah, right. So, and that sold?
And it sold. And
And
I made some money.
And what did that feel like?
Felt really good.
Yeah.
Felt really good. And then at that time, it was very funny. I was living in McLean Gardens, so I started to market McLean Gardens because I had a 1-bedroom there. It was my first place I ever owned after like a year or two. And it got to a while where people would call it Taylor Gardens because that was kind of my first before I came to Georgetown.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of fun. Yeah.
And at that time, did you ever think that Georgetown would become your main venue? Or was that
No, it was so scary here.
Did that just seem daunting?
Oh, yeah. I looked at Pat Dixon and I went, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people may not remember Pat Dixon, but she was sort of
God rest her soul.
the it person of...
Yeah, she really was. And we went to the same college, so I really thought, oh, I just looked up to her so much. And she would do college events at the house, and I'd go up there and go, you know.
Did you get to know her? Well,
You know, not really, because she was superstar status then, and I was like, you know, the little gopher,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. So how did you break into Georgetown? Did you, the same way you got your first listing, just...
You know, very,
Perseverance?
very slowly. I kind of remember doing, you know, that's when I did the 150 to 250 range, and I remember all those little houses in Georgetown, like on 26th Street.
Yeah, that all
would
go
be-
for $950 or $1 million now?
Yes, that were like 175, and I kept thinking, oh my God, these things will never sell for more than 200,000. And I should have bought 10 of them then. They're all $1 million today. Yeah.
Are you a proponent of real estate as an investment and flipping? I mean, do you work with people who are, do you have repeat clients who do just that?
You know, I do, and but it's only one that client of mine, John Checky, that really does it and does it right. And Okay.
My bird arrived.
We got a bird arrive. Okay. It's
you
Easter.
know,
It's
right, exactly. This is a festive occasion. We welcome birds.
That's right.
But anyway, so John Shecky is...
Yes, and we've probably done 20 homes together.
Oh my gosh.
It was, you know, we had our growing pains, you know, things that just weren't quite right for the customer. But I would say someone that does repeat business really figures what the customer wants. Or a person doing it once or twice, it's a little harder to make a profit because you haven't quite gotten down the secret sauce.
You've got to go all in then.
Yeah, you got to go all in, and it's like anything. The first couple of times, it's not gonna come out.
And what about real estate as an investment? Unless you've got lottery money, I suppose, it's hard to find houses in Georgetown, for example, anymore, where you could do that. But there are other neighborhoods where you can probably still do that.
Yes.
I was reading something that I don't know if it was the Washington Post or the Washington Business Journal, but it was sort of the hot neighborhoods, a hot list of the hot neighborhoods. And I believe Glover Park ranked very high.
Oh, I'm thrilled to hear that.
You know,
everyone's moving east now. So I'm
well,
glad
but
to hear
the Glover Park was still affordable, had the benefit of being accessible, you know, in a good way to Georgetown and the DuPont Circle area and up toward, Cleveland Park. But that it was about to be priced out. That the prices were rising so fast.
Probably so.
So you got to know your moment.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking this week. We got an offer on a house on 33rd Street, and the buyer, you know, young person is coming from Trinidad. And our customer says, well, will you go over and look at their house? And I'm like, I'm not sure where Trinidad is, but maybe. You know, but it is sort of
the island or the neighborhood.
The island or the neighborhood, I have no idea. But you do sort of see that, I think, the millennials going downtown where they can afford things in neighborhoods, but then it was so fun to see that couple is coming to Georgetown.
Do millennials have it the worst?
I think they do. Even the cameraman agrees. They do.
Because they're in a rut of renting, aren't they?
They are. And, you know, I kind of have watched, because they do love to rent so much, I feel like there's a lot of buildings now
but is it that they like
rental buildings.
Is it that they like to rent so much, or they don't have an option?
I think they have an option. I think today's world is so non-committal. The younger kids, they just want to rent. They don't think about it. It's not as much the American dream, I think, until you get older. And they're more tied up in social media and things that are just not associated with.
Yeah. Do you have many clients who are in that age group or Gen X, or does it tend to be more boomers for you?
I do. I do have a lot, and that's why I've sort of developed a team because, to just.
You want to be cross-generational.
Exactly.
Have you spent time in the new neighborhoods, though, in Shaw, in Yards Park, Bloomingdale, Trinidad? I mean, just getting to know what's going on there?
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's another neighborhood that was on this list was Anacostia. And I'm not surprised because one of the benefits of when I was working for Washingtonian is I was all over the city all the time. And I found myself in Anacostia a lot on just a variety of different stories. And I was just always like, I'd just take off driving down certain roads. And I thought, you know, I really want to see this place in 10 years, but I wonder if the people living there are still going to be living there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that new practice, thank God for my husband, because he knows that part of the city. He's always thinking of going, oh, this is so-and-so area, this is so-and-so area. I went, I have no idea. But, you know, there's a new practice arena that Events DC opened up in Anacostia.
Yeah. Well, and again, the Yards Park, that you go over there and it's because I lived here long enough, you know, I've lived here long enough that I remember when you didn't go to 14th Street.
No, totally.
But now, you know, people are saying, well, I'm kind of over 14th Street.
Yeah, they're going as far east as they can go. Yeah, it's amazing.
But those neighborhoods tend to be, I could be wrong about this, but the new neighborhoods seem to me to be predominantly, or they have more apartments than we do here in Georgetown, that it is more.
I think we're seeing a lot of buildings go apartment now, and they're small. They're micro apartments. Those I have seen, like 250, 350 square feet.
Yeah.
Like things we wouldn't recognize. But I do really feel like the next phase is going to just turn over again for condos.
Are you very familiar with the saga of the old Latham Hotel? which got sold to be micro units, then got sold again, and then I don't know if this is true. I may just be repeating hearsay, but that the current owner ran out of money and it's just sitting there stagnant with nothing happening.
Oh, tragic. At least they put something pretty on the outside.
But if you lived across the street, you might get tired of looking at it.
That is very true.
But I just wonder if the micro trend will lose its steam.
That's what I think, because
millennials are going to start having families, and it's going to be difficult to live in a closet.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm seeing that I work with a lot of millennials, and I hear them. You know, they want more space, they want more room, and do you find still with families that move to, or not families yet, couples who move to Georgetown, do they stay when the children get to be about 8 or 9, or do they go?
You know, if they can make it past actually 3 or 4 or 5, they generally will stay. But those young ages, they have a couple of kids, and you're right, I guess some of my clients are 7 and 8, and they just don't want to leave. They'll look at Northwest, and they'll look at Georgetown, and
or the suburbs for the schools.
That is true. Most of my customers, though, they pretty much stay in town. A few will go to,
but they go to a more suburban type city neighborhood.
Yeah, Bethesda or Chevy Chase is the next. And then there's such value in Potomac now. A lot of them are thinking, wait, what is wrong with this picture? Why don't I just go to Potomac?
Do you find people care that we don't have Metro in Georgetown? You know,
I think the residents here do not care. I think where it hurts is the commercial.
Yeah.
I think
that could be a whole nother show just talking about
the commercial.
How we're becoming Bankville instead of Georgetown.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
And I don't get it.
It's not a suit shop, you know, but
what we're losing, because, and I think for people in the real estate business, this would be important. Our residential area seems to me to be getting better all the time.
All the time.
Whereas the commercial area seems to be so confused about what it is. And we see a lot of boarded up businesses, and we see a lot of banks coming into the boarded up businesses. And what we tend to lose are markets, electric stores, hardware stores. The stores that if you live in a village, you want to just be able to walk to. That's why you live in a village. And yet, if you live in Georgetown, you end up having to drive to run most of your errands.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking this morning about the commercial because it's so important. But it is good to know that we have the only Apple store in Georgetown. And look what Nathan's went for. The highest sale in the city.
I know, and this is not personal to me except as a Georgetowner, but it sits there dead, you know.
But I think Cap One is coming.
But should that corner be a bank or should it be a pub?
I hear now there's not going to be any banking going on in there. It's all
okay, but should it
shop.
be coffee or should it be booze? I vote for booze.
I vote for booze. and another client of mine the other day, as Compass Coffee opened, he was so excited.
Yeah.
You know, like every day he was texting me going, okay, free coffee today. Okay, they're open today. Then he said, I don't know how they're going to sustain off of coffee because people fill up.
I'd like to see more food
laptop,
in there.
I would too.
You know,
laptops in there, and they're
it was interesting though. It's interesting. I went in and when it first opened up, and every table had somebody sitting at it with a laptop, but everybody was a singular. Nobody was with anybody. And I thought if you turn the music off, the room would be just so quiet.
I know.
But that's my kind of thinking. But yeah, I mean, I just, as a Georgetowner, I would like to see the corner of Wisconsin and MB what it once was, where it was open until midnight or 1 a.m., you know, where there was a feeling of the vibrancy there, and it's sort of closed at night. And I guess, though every corner of Georgetown calls itself the heart of Georgetown, I think it's moved up a little bit to where Martin's is. Yeah.
So at least Billy couldn't have gotten it. He could have run both places.
Yeah, but but I worry more about the 3-year leases that the commercial tenants tend to get. So they don't ever really get invested in our neighborhood. And again, I think that goes back to when you're selling houses. What does the typical person coming to Georgetown for the first time tell you they want?
Well, you know, Georgetown, a lot of our towners, they all have this vision. It has such a cachet that they want to just, I've always wanted to live in Georgetown. And they'll kind of start here, but sometimes the houses don't fit their family needs, so they'll go to another area. But they just want that community. They want to, you know, like last night I was leaving an event on the west side on N Street and walking home with someone else who was stopping in at Martin's, and it's just sort of, it's such a strong residential community. And I think the commercial will come because we have like great people in the bid. And I really think they're working, you know, they're working hard. But that's where I think Metro hurts, because we just need more bodies. The 2,000 homes can't support a vibrant commercial community as big as this.
How is the real estate market in Washington doing, and is it different from, I mean, is it different between DC and Northern Virginia and Bethesda, or is it all the same? And in that same vein, how did the government shutdown affect it? Because in 2013, the government shutdown did cause a sort of a slowdown. And have you seen that?
Shocking that I did not see that. And there's even, you know, someone in this room who was buying a home, I think, during the government shutdown. A lot of our government workers are not, they're more inner city. They're really not so much Georgetown. But I was reading about the Amazon factor.
Right.
Because I keep waiting
I want to talk to you about that.
I keep waiting for that to come over here, and it's just, I even saw a chart the other day that said, you know, the market over there has increased like 24% from last year. Alexandria, and then related like Arlington, Fairfax, but very little DC factor there.
But your real estate license, is it good for the DMV, or do you just have to work in DC and you have to get a different license to sell in Virginia?
Different in Virginia.
So do you have all those
Maryland.
licenses?
Yes.
Like law degrees, you know,
Yes,
like being on the bar.
exactly.
So have you gone over there and looked around and considered maybe staking a claim over in the new Amazon area?
I think it's,
Are you going to wait for them to come to you?
You know, it's very funny. I mean, our group was talking to some of the main DC people very early on about that. I even thought about, do I bring someone in to the group?
Who gets it?
You know, because I won't be able to really learn that market at this point, and everybody's kind of got their niches that they're in. And I really looked at it and probably just didn't make a decision on it. But the moment they announced it, I heard that agents got calls that day from investors just buying for their clients, anything that was on the market.
And I suppose it'll be in tiers of the kinds of jobs people have and the kind of income level they're at. But do you anticipate it will find its way into Northwest and into other city neighborhoods, you know, like Georgetown, but younger neighborhoods, older neighborhoods?
I do. And I think those are executives that will come more, who have a larger buying power. I think right now, a lot of the people are just going to be I think there's going to be like 3 categories. 40% are going to be 400 to 800. Another 40% are going to be 800 to 1.2. And then I think there's going to be a 20% that can probably be in a higher category. And they're going to want housing stock in DC that they can't find in Virginia.
What does it cost to basically get a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house in Georgetown now, or in the immediate surrounding neighborhoods? You
know, it's very funny. When you go from 2 to 3 in Georgetown right now, it's a big difference. A 2 can be 800 to 1314. But the moment you go to 3, it just sort of it jumps.
Does 3 mean you get parking? Does 3 mean you have a parking space?
Carol. Carol. You'll be wanting to trade your house in. Yes, exactly.
No, God,
No. Sometimes even larger prices doesn't guarantee parking.
I've seen that.
It's only like 20% of homes have parking, so that really is.
Is that a big adjustment for the suburbanites?
Oh, huge.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Huge. I have another client in here today, and I remember we got down to the point of, okay, we're going to find a 2-car garage, and you're going to buy the house that goes with it. Okay? Because there are not many choices for a 2-car garage. And I just think that's really what's going to make you extremely happy.
I am struck and there's certainly, it's certainly the talk of the street sometimes is when somebody moves in from the suburbs and they buy a classic Federal, and then the next thing you hear is that they're digging out the basement to put in this, that they're trying to shoehorn the house they had in McLean into a Georgetown house.
Yeah.
Often driving the neighbors absolutely batty.
Absolutely batty.
And how do you, because I imagine that a large part of real estate is psychiatry, right?
Yes.
How do you talk to those clients? How do you get them to have realistic expectations? And do you as a realtor feel any responsibility to the way somebody might disrupt their neighbors or the neighborhood?
I really do hate that, and I kind of say to people,
I notice your house
this
isn't detached. I notice your house is detached.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Thank goodness I don't have to disrupt anybody.
I'm sorry.
Go on. But they are what they are. People will look at a house and go, "Oh, I'd love to put on an addition, or I'd love to do this." And I'm like, they kind of are what they are.
Yeah.
And really OGB does the job for me because it's not easy. And I've had people midway go, "Oh, I can't do what I want to do."
But they're daunted when they hear about the steps they have to go through.
So architects, we've got some great local architects, and they will, and all of us want to tweak. Look, I'm the first person that wanted to put a kitchen on my main floor, so I'm the first person to have bumped up an addition. But I think sometimes you just have to understand you have to adapt your lifestyle to the house.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It is a phenomenon, and I just saw a story in the New York Times. I think that it has started to happen there too. So it's not just us. But the psychiatry, though, should you use a friend as a realtor? Should you think your realtor is your friend? I mean, is it like having a lawyer? What is the relationship between a realtor and a buyer and a realtor and a seller?
It is a very personal relationship. It's probably right up there with your doctor and your lawyer and your psychologist. So I think it's, and a lot of my buyer brokers who are sort of new will come to me and go, "Oh my God, I've got this friend, but she won't use me." And I said, sometimes it's just a little too difficult, and
maybe for the best.
And maybe for the best,
because it can get fraught, right?
Exactly. And I remember 20 years ago, and even there was a long time where a lot of my friends just, I was younger. I wasn't
used you and then
seasoned.
stopped speaking to you?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. But I had to say, I understood it. These are big financial decisions. So.
And you've got to manage expectations.
Oh.
So how do you do that?
All the time is manage expectations.
Right. How do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
hold your hands
is it
a
just
lot.
a skill that you have to have? I mean, you shouldn't be in the game if you can't do that.
Well, it's a skill that I think people develop, and you really got to sort of like anticipate things that could happen. That I better prepare them for this now. And it's such a personal thing. Selling your home, getting it ready. Moving out, that my office will speak for all the crazy calls we will get.
Have you had people behave badly with you?
Oh yes, and I behave badly. We all behave badly. Are you kidding me? We all behave badly.
Have you fired a client?
Oh, yes.
What was without naming names? What were the circumstances?
It's sometimes your energy is just not right with that.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you're never going to make them happy, and the end result is you want to do a good job and make people happy and have them trust you. And so if that's not there, it's not a good. It's toxic.
What if you had to give somebody advice who had never used a realtor, who was buying or selling, but most likely they're buying because if they're selling, they probably use a realtor. What would you tell them are the most important things to have as realistic expectations? I mean, how do you know if the realtor is right for you? Do you make sure that the kinds of houses they typically handle are the kind of house you want?
Houses that you're looking for. And I tell people when they're in different areas all the time, I said, go to different open houses, see who the agents are that are working in that neighborhood, because they're going to know the market in that neighborhood. Because I see people all the time blow into Georgetown, And there's sometimes with people that don't know the market, they could be a friend, whatever they are, and then they buy these houses, and I go, oh my God, you know, wrong house, wrong price, wrong everything. And you can't avoid, you know, you're always just trying to help people. You're like an insurance agent, just to ensure that they're making as good a decision as they can make. Because if I don't tell, what I tell them now is what I tell, you know, it's no surprises when they call me to sell it and I go, oh yeah, oh no, I never told you. That's really a terrible block, you know? I got to tell them now because they're going to come back and I'm going to have to sell it. So.
Right, and you're going to probably have to walk down the street and see them.
Yes,
so
exactly.
you want to be on speaking terms.
You got to be, yes.
Let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the market right now, because if you believe some of the things I was reading, the mortgage, that there's just a little bit of a lull at the moment. Do you sense that? Is it mortgages? Is it?
They say the tax law.
The tax
it's
law
really
comes up.
affecting New York. I don't really see it affecting us, but I hear it's really affecting New York, and that market is off.
Are we in a bubble, or is this just the way life has been and is going to be?
You know, it's very funny. Regardless of who's in office in Washington, Washington area is always in a bubble. It's not. There's.
Does it move around? I mean, is it different neighborhoods, or is it just the city?
Yeah, and there's some more emerging neighborhoods that are, and it's not like we have huge appreciation on our houses, but we don't have huge losses. So we are sort of, it's always been a steady market here.
Do people sell their houses and then tell the buyer, I want to rent it for a year? Is that happening?
You know, and actually that's a big thing in like beach areas or things like that. They'll sell their home but say, oh, I want to, I have rentals for this year, or I just want to rent it and or stay through the season. And then you can have it at the end of the season. I hear that in Florida and the beach, but not as much here.
You mentioned the beach. Timeshares were a disaster, right?
Yeah, disaster.
I mean, and what happened? What happened?
Yeah,
what was the end of that story?
Went out with the dinosaurs, I know. Or the mom and pop bookstores.
That was the 80s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then another trend I hear about is the private sale. Now, is that just something for the elite? Okay, but is that accessible to everyone? Or tell us about a private sale. Tell us how that works and who it benefits.
Publicly?
Yeah, publicly. Yeah. Everybody here and at home wants to know the secret. Okay.
Well,
and you can blush. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, you know, there are homes that never, and it's more so high-end property where people have they could have a public life or a private life, and they just don't want it on the market. So sometimes they're in our hands. And
but how is the decision made? Do you recommend it to them? Do they say that's the way they want to do it? If they want to do it and you think it's a bad idea, do you tell them this is a bad idea?
Yes.
I mean, does there need to be a certainty that this is going to sell fast?
You know, and a lot of times what it is, the private market is for to show property before someone's ready to go on the market. And because everyone always loves to get into something that's not on the market. You know, it's like, oh God, got it. So
it's virtually another market.
It's virtually another market. But what happens is during the spring market, a lot of times private sales kind of happen you know, outside of the peak months.
Yeah.
That you don't want to, it's a large house, you don't want to accumulate days on the market. And it's November.
Because that puts a stink on it.
It does. So like we'll start showing it quietly in November, and then if it doesn't sell, then we'll launch it in March or April.
And does the price then have to go down?
Sometimes we've gotten some market feedback, and that does help. And a lot of times private is for market feedback, because the thing about Georgetown is so many houses are different, and so it's really, really hard. And a lot in Northwest too. They're all built. You know, we don't have sort of neighborhoods that are exactly alike. We're kind of built at different periods, so it just sort of helps to. And we know the buyers. You know, 90% of the homes are sold by 10% of the agents. It's pretty much a thing. There's a group of us we're always sort of calling. We kind of know the buyers in the marketplace, so we
Is it usually in the neighborhood? Is it usually?
There are things quietly outside the neighborhood too.
Yeah, yeah. I have a friend who recently did a private sale, and it sold like so fast it was dizzying. And now there is a case of buyer's remorse. Or
is that the same friend we know?
Seller's remorse. Seller's remorse. It may be. It may be.
Yes, I think so.
Well, I'm sure it happens more than once when it happens fast.
Yes.
And how do you? I mean, do people ever then like say, I'm taking it back, I'm now not selling it?
Yeah, it's really hard.
And do you have to like talk them down from that?
It's really hard.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, that would, it's both good news and bad news. You know, you didn't have time to emotionally prepare. So it was.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of running for office?
No.
Why not?
Doesn't pay enough. I'm joking with you.
But you reach a point where sometimes where you have enough, and
exactly.
I'm sure you've been approached.
Yeah, but I don't like. I love sitting with you yesterday morning. I have to just say, I dropped at Carol's house yesterday morning just to say, what are we talking about today? And of course, Carol is like, oh no, well, I'm dealing with that, today after work. And the Mueller report is out. And I'm like, oh God, I forgot that was out today. I am not up to date on any of that stuff.
It was wonderful.
So I got to watch the news with Carol and flicking around what station she watches what on and what Trump is going to tweet the moment she looks at Fox and they say something and Trump is tweeting it. It was fascinating.
I showed her how it worked.
Yes,
I showed her how.
Tell the audience
I said
how it
Fox says this, and then I look at my phone and Trump tweets it, and then I go to CNN and MSNBC and watch how they report how Fox handled Trump, how Trump tweeted what Fox said, and then MSNBC and CNN then report it. But it was fascinating. My version of the story is that I was downstairs with my hair up in a palm tree and my pajamas, barely sipping my cup of coffee.
With the bird. There's a bird in her room.
It's not just flying around, but he's pretty much, he's a free bird. And there's pound, 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 pound. Oh my God. Is she up? It's 8 o'clock.
Carol's got to be up.
And it was
the girl's like, yes, okay, I'm up. I'm having my coffee. And I said, you tell me when I have to leave at 8:20. Okay, you have to go. Bye.
Yeah, it was charming.
So I came back again today, and she wasn't up as early. I'm like, okay, what the hell are we talking about? Okay.
I put tape on my door. I said, do not enter.
I know. Yesterday was like, Mueller's, it was all the politics. And I'm like, I learned so much.
Well, I was a little
20
drained
minutes.
from yesterday.
I'm sure you were.
But no, but
I'm glad you're not reading more about real estate than I know about
I am not
today.
reading the Mueller report today. I'm just reading about real estate, or just doing real estate. I took the day off, but I
heard you go to FedEx and they'll print the report or something for you, something crazy.
Oh, you can read it online if that's how you want to spend your way. But back to politics.
Okay.
But back to
which I don't know.
You do a lot of charitable work. You do a lot of work for the community anyway. What are your favorite charities?
You know, I remember years and years ago reading about some real estate agent in some realtor magazine down in Florida, and he was he owned the community and he was involved in this, that, and that. And I thought to myself, going, wow, I would just love to be that person who was so involved in my community. Not necessarily, but I just thought that just showed me how the width and breadth of a real estate agent, like they just weren't in there to sell a house, they were in there to support the community. Mm-hmm. And that really just sort of, struck me.
Okay, well,
and I thought nothing like my own
sounds like a politician, right?
Yes,
okay.
I know.
So what charities have you put your most effort into, do you think?
Well, it's very funny because my husband we have family charities, but then I have like the Georgetown Village, the Georgetown the ministry, Georgetown Heritage. They're all like Georgetown Rose.
Yeah.
Park,
what does Georgetown Village do?
That's the homeless program.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all the churches,
right.
Which I'm very.
And is it citywide, or just? I mean, is Georgetown Village part of a program that is in other neighborhoods?
No. Oh. Gunther started here, and
that's the Georgetown Ministry also, right?
Oh wait, I'm sorry, Village. Oh, yeah. I'm all mixed up. Yeah. The Village. Oh, these are fantastic. These are these. Every neighborhood, like Cleveland Park has a village, Palisades has a village. Yeah. That's where we're going. So sorry. And they're just helping elderly sort of stay in their homes, and they take them to doctor's appointments. They, when people go out and shovel their sidewalks, it's
an important part of the city.
It really
that kind of giving back.
Are you know, they're in their homes by themselves.
Right.
And this group and they're feeling fine, and all of a sudden they get sick, and you just can't move on a dime. So these folks are really very helpful.
And the Georgetown Ministry is the homeless.
The Ministry Home, I love that group. With
And
all the
you've been
churches.
involved
That really started with all the churches sort of coming together and housing them from November to April, you know, in the cold months and everything. And that's had some, you know, since Gunther left, that's been a very tough group to
But
navigate.
are you happy with the politics of Ward 2 and the way Ward 2 is running? I mean, do you think Jack should run for re-election? Do you think it's time for...
Just saw Jack this morning, sweeping his front steps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean,
And-
look, he's a friend, I know,
Yeah.
but if he were to ask you for your advice about should he run for re-election, what would you tell him?
You know what? And look, I think every politician has sort of the eye of the storm sometime. And I remember when this all came up, he says, look at those guys in Richmond. And they still,
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's the comparison that...
but I said, they still have, you know, they still have
Well.
their position.
Okay.
They survived it.
Okay,
But
well.
it was just like, this is like nothing compared to. The only reason that I support Jack is because he's a little bit of a warrior, and he knows every in and out of the city right now. There's going to be a new person behind him one day, either this election or the next one, but they don't have sort of the whole, you know, background of the city, and he's been in the arena for a long time. So I think it just helps when you're in the arena, you can kind of make decisions that newer people might not make the same decision.
I'll ask you one more question, then I'll take you off this hook.
All right.
But sure, Carol, do that.
I have my books here too.
Yes, I know. We're going to.
And my tape measures there. We're going to take a tape measure.
We only have a few minutes left.
Oh,
so
I have to ask another question?
Yeah,
Okay,
you go.
good.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be fun.
Okay, good.
Baseball. You and your
Yes.
husband are very devoted patrons
yes.
of the Nationals.
And the foundation.
I mean, I can
Yeah.
often see you I watch the game and I see you sitting there.
Yes.
Right behind
Yes.
the batter, but it's no longer Bryce Harper.
Oh, I know.
So what did you think about that? What do you think about the Nationals right now? And
You know, I think every team goes through their changes, and just with,
do you think the Lerners made a wrong move losing them though?
you know,
Losing him?
I don't think so. I think there's always a Bryce Harper with every team, and they don't stay forever.
I don't know
Well,
that there's always
key
a Bryce
players.
Harper. Yeah.
I'm just saying there's always key players, and I think there was a lot more in that decision besides him being a big hitter. Yeah.
And the Redskins? You're Redskins fans too, aren't you?
Redskin- Oh, yes.
That's harder. It's harder and harder and harder to be a Redskins fan, I find.
I think it is too.
And
I think it is too.
I just
Since
don't
they
know.
left the city.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Do you have any intel on, since you two do hang out in those circles, the sports circles, of a movement back to the city of the Redskins, or?
You know, I think there's probably in the inner circles still a lot of talk about that, and we're all just hopeful one day that happens. It would really be.
It would be.
a
I remember
fabulous day.
those days. They
Yeah.
were the best. They were the best
Yeah.
possible days.
Yeah.
So, you don't have the book right here, but I think that the
It's
book.
over on
the
the
book is
chest. You're
around,
welcome
and
to
if you're
take one.
watching at home, you can get it from Nancy through Washington. Here, yeah, come on, hand it.
oh, there's
here.
the-
So this is a wonderful book. This is Nancy's first book. Her next book will be recipes. But this book, and there should be one in every single neighborhood. It's all this, and this actually extends beyond Georgetown. It's all, I mean, just looking at this one page, movers, painting and tile, pet services, pest control, photographers, plumbing, lenders, irrigation, home inspectors.
It was a monster because you started with
Handyman,
like 10 groups.
fireplaces. I mean, seriously, you should publish this for every single neighborhood. But it's called The Little Blue Book, and you can just call Nancy at Washington Fine Properties, and she'll get one for you. But
Or feel free to take one today.
Here,
We have
yes,
some.
no, because I think it's a great book, and I think
you,
you're
dear.
great, and I think it was
Thank
great
you.
for you
So fun.
to come and do this. And thank all of you for being here.
Thank you, everyone, on the busiest day.
This is?
Easter, well, Good Friday, and, Passover
But not
tonight,
busy for real estate, just
not
busy for
real
fun.
estate, thank
Family
goodness.
fun.
It was
God,
my
I was
easy
gonna
day.
say-
It's hard for
I was going
everyone
to say,
who's
if you're
sitting here, so
selling
thank you.
houses on Passover, we're going to have another discussion.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Carol. Terrific.
Take care. See
Thank
you at the
all.
next Q&A Cafe.
Thank you.